I made a blunder, a boo-boo, a mistake. It's next to impossible to always eat the right thing, do the right amount of exercise, and never do anything you shouldn't. I'm only human, and so I wanted to share with you my really bad evening. We all make mistakes. You can do perfectly well with your diabetes lifestyle for a while, but chances are sooner or later you will stray, even if only for a little bit.
We always try to do the best thing, but we're only human.
I want to share with you my recent mistake and the ways I used to recover from it. Here's the thing though, we are all different. We can have two people with diabetes eating exactly the same thing, and their bodies will react differently. Actually, your own body can react to the same food differently at different times. I did similar things before, and it was never this crazy. That's why I didn't expect my mistake to blow up so badly. Diabetes sucks.
But at Simply Diabetes, we can help you manage your diabetes cheaper and easier.
We are not medical professionals. We are people with diabetes, just like you.
Welcome.
Mistakes happen, and there's no reason to beat yourself up for making one. We all make mistakes. Just recently, I made a serious blunder that I want to share with you. We had plans to go out that evening to attend a show. Fridays are our date nights, and we almost always go out. Because the show started around 7 p.m., we decided to have early dinner at home first.
The problem was neither one of us wanted to cook dinner.
We have a freezer full of meals, so we could get something out of there. All we had to do was microwave it.
Not all the meals in our freezer are homemade. We also buy prepared meals. Usually we check the labels to make sure these meals aren't terribly carby.
But sometimes we allow something that's a bit more carby than normal. Nothing crazy, but a little bit more carbs than we should. Our reasoning is that if we have a part of a meal that is a bit carby, but we augment it with lots of veggies, then an occasional meal like that is not going to ruin our blood glucose. But this time we did something unbrilliant. We combined two prepared dishes that were both more carby than usual, and we didn't add any veggies to it.
That was definitely unbrilliant.
Yeah, each dish was marginal at best, and combined they turned too much. Before we started eating, my blood sugar was in range, but at the top of it. So a meal like this would definitely raise it up into unhealthy territory. I should have known better, but I was thinking about the upcoming show and I didn't pay attention.
We made it worse by deciding to have a dessert. Nothing crazy, just some chocolate, but it didn't help.
It didn't. The final straw was that we then drove to the theater and then sat through the show. Normally, I walk for at least 2 minutes after each meal, but there was no time for that. We were already running late. So I sat in the car and then sat through the show. That's a lot of sitting, which is as passive as it gets and doesn't use blood sugar much.
So, problem after problem.
Yes, we compounded it badly. Nothing happened for a while, but on our drive back home, my CGM started alarming. I looked at my reading and it was a whopping 297. Yikes! And here I am, stuck in the car, not able to react much. If you don't know about very high sugars, 300 is definitely way too high. It could cause dehydration, weakness, nausea, and all kinds of other non-fun things. It is also possible that there are no symptoms and you are unaware. This is exactly what was happening in my case. If I didn't have my CGM, I would know nothing about my dangerously high sugar. Mine was close to 300 and going up. If I did nothing, my sugar could climb even higher and make things even worse. 300 is bad enough, but if you allow your sugar to get to 400, this could be life-threatening, and over 600 is a medical emergency. So here I am, stuck in the car, and my sugar is approaching 300 and rising. It continued climbing until it reached the highest I've ever seen, 307. That is dangerous territory, and getting it down is critical.
How do we get the sugar down quickly in such a situation?
There are several ways, and the best one I know is moving. I had little opportunity for that. I was stuck in the car, and getting out and walking wasn't an option. The other two methods, if you're curious, are drinking a lot of water and injecting rapid action insulin. I don't take that kind of insulin, so that's not an option for me. Water would help, so I drank whatever we had, but it wasn't enough, and we didn't have more in the car. So right there in the car, I started fidgeting exercises.
See our fidgeting video if you're curious how this works. The link is below this video.
I would raise my knees, tighten and relax my big muscles, and the like. Fidgeting helps, but in this case it was too little. While the sugar stopped climbing, thank goodness, it was stuck at a very uncomfortable level. When we finally got home, I knew I needed to do something serious immediately. Walking is my go-to remedy if my sugar gets too high, but it was already dark outside and cold. So I started walking inside our home, back and forth, from the front door to the back patio and back again. Sometimes it feels like blood sugar has a mind of its own. There are times when getting it down is easy, and when I start moving, it comes back into a healthy range real quick. But there are times, particularly now that I've had diabetes for a while, that the sugar gets stubborn and just doesn't come down as expected. It happened to me several times, and it is always very frustrating. This was one of those times. I was walking and walking and walking, drinking water along the way. After a while, my legs started hurting. I was tired and mad at myself. Not a good combination. The sugar began inching down, maddeningly slowly. It was getting late, but I knew I didn't want to go to bed with sugar this high. It was likely it would stay that way for the night, and high sugar all night is definitely not something I want. It took me an hour and 15 minutes of walking over 5,000 steps to get it down to not even a healthy range, but to a number that wasn't terrifying, 190. Still bad, but I'd had enough. Exhausted, I went to bed. In the morning, my reading was 150. Not beautiful, but okay. Looking at the graph of my glucose in my Freestyle Libre, it fell to 150 fairly quickly and then stayed there. It happened to me several times that a mistake like this lingers for a long time, haunting me with bad sugar that is difficult to tame. It's a lot easier to keep the sugar low than to get it down after it goes this wild.
Luckily, this doesn't happen very often.
No, but when it does, it's maddening. The next day, I was extra careful with my food choices and took the pups for a longer walk than usual. My glucose level recovered, and I'm fine now. But my ordeal shows how easy it is to lose control of your sugar and how hard it is to fight back.
The lesson here is, if you have diabetes, extremely high sugars will happen if you're not careful. So we need to pay attention.
The other lesson is that if it does happen, don't panic, but also don't ignore it. Get moving, because when the sugar is so high, it might take a lot longer to get it down than we'd like. But it's really important to not give up. And believe me, nothing gets you straight into better sugars than a scare like I went through. So, if you made a mistake like I did, pay attention to your blood sugar, and react immediately. The weird thing is, I went back and calculated the amount of carbs I ate that night. I ate half a package of each of these boxes. Let's look at the nutrition stats together. On the bird's nest, I ate half the box without the very sweet sauce. The entire box is 71 grams of sugar, including the sauce, minus 6 grams of fiber. That's 65 grams with the sauce. I'm not sure how many carbs the sauce had, but it was very sweet, so let's assume 10 grams. So now we have 55 grams of carbs for the box. So I ate about 27 grams of sugar from this one package. The second box contains 42 grams of carbs minus 4 grams of fiber. That's 38 grams per box, and I ate half, which is 19 grams.
So if we add these, we get 27 grams for the first dish and 19 grams for the second. That's 46 grams.
We also had chocolate. A serving is 13 grams minus 2 grams of fiber. Chocolate has fiber, who knew? Anyway, one serving then counts as 11 grams of impact carbs. The serving size of the package is 2 squares, but I had 4. So we need to double the carbs. So I ate 22 grams.
Let's add that. We had 46 grams of carbs from the main meal, plus 22 grams of carbs from chocolate. That's 68 grams.
Yikes, that's a lot. On the other hand, I'm still surprised how my body reacted.
Right, I could understand your sugar reaching the mid-250s, but over 300?
My experience shows that the human body is not a simple machine. It's a complex biochemical lab, and depending on what else is going on in your life, you won't always react the same to the same food.
So we need to always be careful, even if we eat something very familiar.
Exactly. In this specific case, having a CGM helped me identify the issue in the first place. If I didn't have it, I would never know how high my sugar got.
And if someone doesn't have a CGM?
Then you need to measure with your glucometer, particularly after a meal that was more carby than normal. But situations like this one are why I'm a huge fan of CGMs. I believe every person with diabetes who wants one should have it. Of course, this is currently impossible because of the cost, but hopefully in the future these devices will be cheaper.
If you found this video useful, give us a like and subscribe to our Simply Diabetes channel. And don't forget to tell your friends. That's the best way to help us reach the people who need help managing their diabetes.
See you next week.